What's up, guys? Welcome back to today's episode of the Sports Sermon. We are brought to you by Scooch, the most functional phone case on the market. Check out ScoochCase.com to get yours today and use the code SPORTS18, sports with a Z, of course, to get a 10% discount on your order. Stay tuned till the end for a special Scooch giveaway as well. But now, today's episode. So we are here today to talk about the San Antonio Spurs. Before I get into it, though, I want to tell you where you guys can find the show. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at The Sports Sermon, sports with the Z, of course. And really, you're going to be able to find everything you want there. You're going to be able to find NFL, NBA, college football, fantasy football, and more. Make sure you check all of that out. But let's get into the Spurs. I'm Jason Gandhi. I'm here with Dylan and Dan. You know who the guys are. Let's talk about the Spurs. They traded Kawhi away before the season started. Did you think that was necessary?
I think so, because his value was dwindling by the day, and they didn't even get a ton of extra value out of their trade that they did do, getting DeMar DeRozan back. He didn't want to be there, and it would have been embarrassing for the franchise if potentially he was there around training camp time and didn't show up to the team. So I think it was necessary for them to trade him before the season started.
Yeah, I agree, Dylan. I think it was necessary as the offers would have gotten worse closer to the trade deadline. Every team would know the Spurs need to get something for him, so they're not going to offer much for him.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they had to get rid of him as soon as we knew there was no chance they could restore this relationship. He would have destroyed the locker room. The Spurs had no chance of mending that relationship, so it was good they let him go. Let's talk more about that Kawhi trade. It was really the talk of the offseason for the Spurs. Did they take the best offer they were given, or did they settle due to other factors?
I think for this year, this was definitely the best offer. I think DeMar DeRozan, it seems like he was the best player that they were offered in a trade. For the franchise, though, apparently the Celtics offered a lot of picks for him, and I think that could have ended up a lot better in the long run. But we all know the Spurs are trying to compete in Pop's last few years, so I think for that, it was the best offer.
Yeah, I think they took the best offer. DeMar DeRozan is a pretty good replacement for a top 5 player in the league. He's as close to a superstar as you can find, so I think that, you might call him a superstar, so I don't know. So I think that's a solid replacement right there.
See, I don't. I think they definitely settled for a guy that I guess he's probably the closest to Kawhi, like Dan said, that they could have got. I didn't like it, though, because while I like DeRozan and Aldridge, I don't think that duo is enough to do anything. I thought they should have made the deal for Brandon Ingram and whoever else was getting offered early, or they should have made the trade with the Celtics for all those draft picks and tried to get a guy like Jaylen Brown. Yes, they said he wasn't going to be on the table, but I feel like that could have changed the more aggressive they would have got into it. I understand why they didn't, though. They didn't want to rebuild. I don't agree with the strategy, so I don't think that was the best offer, but I'm not blind to see where they're coming from. I do see why Popovich doesn't want to rebuild if he only has a few years left. I don't think that's the best interest in terms of the Spurs, but you really can't do anything if Pop says he doesn't want to rebuild. You kind of don't have to, so didn't really have much of a choice once Pop said he didn't want to rebuild, but it was not the best offer because they could have been so much better for years to come. Let's get into what do you guys see as the ceiling and floor for this team, and what are your expectations for the Spurs?
I still think the rest of the West, outside of the Warriors and Rockets, is pretty even. So I could see them getting all the way up to the third seed, potentially. That would be their ceiling for me because, again, this team was just a couple wins away from being at third seed a year ago. They were tied with the rest of the West, and they didn't have DeMar DeRozan on their team because Kawhi was out for the entire year also. I think more realistic is probably a 5 to 7 seed for the Spurs again this year, though.
Yeah, their team is no doubt improved from the players that actually played last year with Kawhi not actually playing. A very underrated signing was Marco Bellinelli. They lost Tony Parker, but I think that DeJounte Murray will improve, and then they lose Kawhi that didn't play last year and get DeRozan. So my ceiling is probably like a 5 seed. Floor is the 8 seed, so my expectations are right in the middle at like a 6 or 7.
Yeah, I I think the ceiling has to be a 5 seed. I don't see how they could be a top 4 team if everything goes right. I think they could be 5. The floor is out of the playoffs. They lose a really important glue guy in Danny Green, and they're going to have guys step up. I'm not sure DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge is enough to do that. Realistically, I see them as a 7 or 8 seed and have to battle with the Warriors, Lakers, or Rockets, and they're going to get knocked out in the first round. I don't see this team making any noise come playoff time. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, they were what? They were like the 8 seed last year, right?
7.
7 seed, and their team's improved. So I just see, I don't know.
It depends on the matchup for me. If they do get a 7 or 8 seed and play the Warriors or Rockets, I would definitely see them making no noise. But I would say it's up for grabs.
Say they're a 6, they play the Blazers or the Pelicans or the Jazz.
They could definitely win that series.
How?
Because I think all those teams are pretty similar, pretty even in terms of just talent overall. So, plus I think the Spurs have the best coach out of any of those teams. So, it's definitely a winnable series.
Dan, who would you take in a Jazz Spurs series?
Jazz Spurs. I mean, I would take the Jazz, but I wouldn't just totally count out the Spurs.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I really can't get behind the roster. I don't see what is going to work for them. I don't like Rudy Gay and DeMar DeRozan having to play in the same lineup. There's just not going to be any defense, and defense is the most important once it comes to the playoffs. And I really don't see where they get into this. I don't see where they get past the first round, no matter who they play. Personally, for the San Antonio Spurs. Any last thoughts on the Spurs?
Nope.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this Spurs episode. I know it was a quick one, but we're just trying to roll through these teams as we get closer and closer to the season. I mentioned Scooch. I'm going to change the offer to 15% if you go on ScoochCase.com right now and use that code SPORTS18, sports with a Z. You can get 15% off all your order. Also, if you comment and subscribe below, you will be entered for a free Scooch case. Make sure you do that. We will announce the winners at the end of August. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys later.